In the travel book South Voyages by Miguel Sousa Tavares, the narrator witnesses the state of an old house from colonial times in San Tome and Principe, giving the text, significantly, the title Ruins of the Empire, evoking a past time that he cannot recover concretely, but who knows touched by the lives of those who lived in, of those that, and I quote, by the dream they lived, by the dream they killed, and by the dream they died. They left houses and ruins of houses. So I'm going to read you a little bit of this book so you can understand what these ruins mean. The door fell a long time ago, and there was only a hole, a space of shadow that crosses the whole house, and on the other side it returns to the light and lets us see through the house, the sea in front blue and luminous. I try in vain to photograph this passage from the terreiro, the place where they used to meet, to the sea, through the house. I know beforehand that no photograph will be able to reproduce the crossing between light and shadows and again light, this passage from land to sea, this poignant journey between the life that existed here and the ruins that today triumphed over all memories. I enter the house as if I were on sacred ground, like a robber from someone else's past. The floor is parquet floor in the corridors and tablets in the rooms I cross. Glass scraps, scraps of all scraps, accumulate on the floor. Mosquitoes land on the walls waiting for their late afternoon time. A lizard stopped 30 years ago waiting for the entrance of what must have been a room where someone slept facing Portugal. There is nothing left that can tell me anything concrete. So, in the terminacy, the apparent emptiness is the place where the epic and the drama unfolded, the dream and ruin of a people. Insects and reptiles take the place of human beings, occupy the space as a symbol of a reacquisition of the nature of what was always hers. We can also consider in literatures the nun place as other authors were attracted by the operative concept of nun place, extending it to the transgression of limits, to the representation of imagination and inconceivable spaces. They are not utopian places, nor necessarily fantastic. They are not a lack of place. They are not related to the fragmentary, and they are not the opposite of place. The non place can also be the place to which we do not belong, the place of others, which does not invalidate knowledge, but whose sense of belonging is null. Hostile place, not situated in the personal or group geography to which it belongs, which closes and does not represent possibility because it is not belonging, it is a place of absence. We can live in places of absence when we don't recognize the place and the place doesn't recognize us. Thus, it is possible through the non place to construct the history of place and time. The ruins evoke the past of a country empire, but also bring to the present an awareness of what it is today. The images of a place that is not here are also images of a desire to return, like those of migrants, or of places that are confused between remembrance and forgetfulness. Um, the places, there is also another book very interesting, and I remember it now. It is very interesting because there is this character who takes the boat from Lisbon to the other side of the river, and she's from Cape Verde, a woman, and she sits next to this other woman who looks at her and says, asks her, "Are you from Cape Verde?" And she doesn't want to talk and tries not to give her too much importance and not to answer. And she starts asking her again, and they are both at the end of the conversation. They realize they are both from the same place in Cape Verde, and at a certain point of time, this character says she's no longer in the boat. She's in the ruins that she left behind. So you see, the absence of a space doesn't mean, or the ruins of a place doesn't mean that the place does not exist. The place exists. It's not the absence of place. It's not the contrary or the opposite of place. And it can also exist in, both exist in the memory, but in the things, in the remembrances, also in the ruins of the place, of a place, like we saw now with this visit to this house of colonial times that remembers the narrator of a past that he didn't know but that existed, and makes him think of his own identity. So spaces and non-places and places, they have this evocative but also reflective and analytic possibility for for the narrator, but also for the reader.